Alright guys, welcome into the video. I do hope you learned something today. If you have a special request for your own tutorial, please leave a comment below. So without further ado, today we're going to be making an item pickup, such as like a med kit or some ammunition for your weapon. And we're going to add some physics to it to where it can drop in or like roll down something if it wanted to. And then we're going to move on to make an AI character that will be able to move around our map. And then we are going to make that AI character find a item pickup close to his location and then collect that pickup. And so this could be like the AI was blasting some rounds, you know, and he's out of ammo, so he needs to go find some ammunition, right? Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, this is it's been a long time since I've made a tutorial, and we're probably going to end up just cutting this. I'm currently running UE5. You may be running UE4. We're going to be working in blueprints, so it's going to apply to both. They're both very much exactly the same, more or less, in the blueprint system. Some of the UI looks a little different and everything. Like your content bar will just be here like normal. As to where on UE5, you got to use Control and Space to open and close your menu. But anyways, to get started, let's right click and let's make a new folder and let's call it Blueprints. You always want to stay a little organized in your project. And under here, we are going to make a new blueprint class. And we're just going to make an actor. We don't need any movement or any control over an item pickup. And let's just call this item pickup for the sake of this tutorial. Now, all we need to do is double click our item pickup to open up our full blueprint editor menu. All right, and then I usually just grab it right here in the little tab and drag it up to the top, the full screen, everything. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is actually make our asset, right? So let's just make, for now, actually the easiest thing to do is just use a sphere. We're going to add a sphere into the hierarchy here. And for this tutorial, we can just overwrite the default scene root by dragging the sphere onto that. You don't have to do that. That's just, it just affects the way your transform works and your position and everything like that. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to make a sphere collision that basically we're going to call trigger. And this is basically going to be your trigger for when somebody is close to the item pickup. When they collide with it, they can pick it up. And you can set it up to where you can push E or something, for example, to collect it. For this tutorial, we're just going to make it to where the sphere is the trigger for when, as soon as the AI character walks right into the sphere collision, it's going to activate the code that will pick up the item and add it to that AI character. So over here, you have your sphere radius, and this is how big your circle is going to be around. And just keep in mind that you might have to come back and adjust this a little bit, but for now, let's just set it to 300. And so whenever our AI character collides with this, he's going to pick up this item. And now that I'm thinking about it, 300 might be a little bit too much, so let's just do 200. And save that. And that's the collision setup. So now all we got to do is go back to our sphere and come down to physics. And we're going to simulate the physics. We're going to check this box, and that's basically going to activate the physics. It's all built into the engine for the most part. For what we're doing today, honestly, I don't even think you have to adjust anything else. But for future reference, do come down and look under your collision and make sure these things are the way you want it to be. Something important you can do, you may want to simulate hit events and overlap events. So if you're having trouble with those in blueprints, make sure you check these options out. Under your collision presets, you can change this to custom and manually say what the sphere can collide with. So for example, I see people have this problem a lot, especially, you know, you're starting out and you're not sure how this stuff's working. If you, for example, have a plane on the floor or a cube and you want this to interact with that object, it's a world static object usually. So if it were to set to ignore it or overlap it, it would just fall through that object. So it needs to be on block so that it actually collides with it. And you can actually make your own custom responses and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that right now. So moving on, that's pretty much all we have to really do here. Something you may want to mess with is some settings in here, like enable gravity, your dampening. It's kind of like how fast the object kind of falls through space, kind of affected by air. You can change the mass right here, and that's how heavy this object would be. And obviously, the heavier, the more gravity is going to affect it. So honestly, I think that's all we're going to do for the item pickup. So let's just close out of that. And for now, we're just going to drag our item pickup into the map. To make this more visible, I'm obviously going to open the item pickup back up real quick. And I'm going to select the sphere. And right here under the materials, just find another material like this one here. It's orange. That'll work. Just so it stands out a little bit. Okay, so there's our item pickup. And let's test it out real quick. Let's drag it up in the air and see if it falls and hits the ground when we hit play. And there you have it. It bounced a little bit. So now even if something collides with it, it will move. So let's move on to making an AI character real quick. So we're just going to right click and make a blueprint class. And this time we are going to make a character because it includes the character walk information in the blueprint. And we're going to need that for our AI character. And I'm just going to name this AI character. And I'm going to double click him and do the same thing. Drag him up here to where I can have full access. And so we can see something of our character. Let's add a cube, I suppose. Not really ideal, but for this tutorial, we're going to make him a cube and just kind of make him fit this capsule collision a little bit here. Something roughly about like that. So now we'll be able to see him. I'm going to go ahead and take our AI character and drop him into the level. And that's pretty much that. You have now created an AI character. I mean, there's nothing too crazy about it. All that's left to do is to basically say the AI needs to find the item pickup and move to it. And when he collides with it, he's going to pick it up. So actually, the next step that we're going to do is go into our AI character. And you're going to want to add a sphere collision. Right? Okay, so you add a new sphere collision, and I have done that already. And I just named it pickup detection. So this is like the AI perception range, right? So like he's going to look within this circle, which remember right here, your sphere radius, just change this to the value you want. I said about 4,000 because like I think that's kind of realistic. Like, so if I'm this AI character, I'm looking around. I'm looking for any pickable items in my range, right? And if I find one, then I'm going to go to the closest one and grab it, right? Okay, so then what you're going to want to do is in your event graph, and I'm just going to run this on begin play, but you can put this wherever you need it to be in your code. So we're going to grab our pickup detection, our sphere collision, and we're going to drag off of that, and we're going to say get overlapping actors. Okay, and under class filter, of course, we're going to put in our pickup. So we're going to search for our pickups if any of them are inside of our sphere. And so then basically what we're going to do is we're going to come off of here and we're going to do a for each loop. Plug that in to wherever you need it to be. And now we have access to all of the overlapping item pickups within our perception range, right? Depending on your game, I wouldn't recommend going this crazy with the code, you know. It's not going to be crazy by any means, don't get me wrong, but you don't necessarily have to check like all the distances of all your items and then go to the closest one necessarily. Depending on your game, you could just pick a random one and be done. For example, if you wanted to try that, you could literally just drag off your array value right here and just type random and get a random array item. And then right here's your reference to what you need to go get. And this is where the AI character is going to move to. That would be very simple, done pretty much right there. But instead, we're going to try to figure out how to check all of the available items and figure out which one is closest to us. Alright guys, I'm doing this tutorial on the fly, so I had to stop and figure a little bit of the code out and make sure everything was working properly, and I got it all set up, so we're ready to go. You are going to need these 3 float variables here on the left. I just called them previous distance, current distance, and closest distance. And then you just drop down the arrow and make them floats. So just make sure you add all them. Right here's the plus sign. And once you have that, the closest pickup, these 4 variables here are the only ones we need. And this Game Master reference, that was from earlier. I can delete that. So don't worry about that. You just need the closest pickup, previous distance, current distance, and closest distance. And make sure your closest pickup is set to item pickup. You can just search for your item pickup. And right here, object reference. Alright, so let's go through this code real quick. I'll show you this is all it is. It's not that crazy. I had to do a couple revisions to get it right, but this seems to be solid and working great. So, come over to your array element of your for each loop. And remember, we just got our overlapping actors, and they were all item pickups. And then we're taking that array, and now we're checking each one, and we're going to type get distance 2. Get distance 2 is the node you need. And now the other thing you got to do is right click and type self. Get a reference to self. Drag out of that. And actually plug self into target. And then the array element into other. And that's exactly what we got. So now from get distance 2, we're going to take the return value and we're going to set our current distance. So you can come over here and get your current distance and set it. And then just come out of the loop body, plug it in, come out of the return value and plug it in. And now we've set our current distance. Moving along, we come out of current distance and we're going to type less than sign and you'll get a less, or if you're on UE4 it might say less than, but it should be under operators, same difference. We're just going to check if this is less than our previous distance. So you want to get previous distance and plug it in the bottom. And that's what we've got here. Now drag out of your Boolean here and type branch. And you're going to get a branch. Or you can hold B and left click to get a branch. Now we have that ready to go. We need to add a sequence right here. So come out of this execution pin and type sequence right here. It look like this. Or you can hold S and left click to also get a sequence. So now we have that. We're going to drag out of the first execution pin and we're going to type do once. And there you have it. That's all you got to do there. We're going to follow through this whole line of code before we come back and do the rest. So now out of your do once, you're going to type cast to item pickup. And this will be named whatever your item pickup, whatever you named it earlier. And this will be and your name may be different than item pickup. It'll be whatever you named it earlier in the video. So now all you gotta do is come back to your array element, drag off of that, and plug him into the object right there. And now you're gonna be left with this. And then as item pickup, we're going to set our closest pickup. So come over here and get closest pickup, drag it in, hit set, and drag out of the execution pin, and drag this in there, and boom, it's set. Now we're gonna come out of there, and following this execution pin, we're going to set closest distance. So get closest distance, set, drag in the execution pin, and now we need to set the value So to get the value, we got to come back to get distance to, our very first get distance to right here. Drag it all the way over into closest distance. And boom, we've set it. Now, from there, we're going to come out of closest distance out of the execution, and we're going to set the previous distance. Drag it in, set, drag your execution pin in, and then from the same line that we just brought over, you can double click and drag off to also plug that into that same, into the previous distance right here. Now you may be confused at this point as to what's happening, but I will briefly explain everything as soon as we get it all done here. So let's just bust through the rest of this. So now we come back to our branch node that we made earlier. And we need to do another cast. And you can actually just left click this, right click it, and copy it. Or just do Control C, left click on the empty grid area, and Control V to paste it in. So yeah, you'll just make a copy of this right here. And then you can also, out of the object line here, like we did with the green line, you can double click it and then drag off and plug it right in, because we're using the same variable for both of these. Now, out of item pickup, you're going to drag out and you're going to get another branch. Just like that. And then out of the branch, we're going to come out of the true value here and we're going to set closest pickup. So we get closest pickup and we're going to set it and just plug the execution pin in to right there out of the true. Now don't forget, we need to set closest pickup. So we're going to come back and we're going to our cast node that we just copied in, drag out and drop it right there on closest pickup. Okay guys, we only have this little bit of code right here, and this is all the code you need to be able to do everything. So we need to get another self. If you remember, we just type self and we get a reference to self. We're going to drag out of that and we're going to get distance to under transform, get distance to, and you can just copy this and paste it in to get two of them, just like this. Now you're going to take yourself and plug it into the target of both of them. Make sure you get that in both of those. And then from item pickup, plug it into the bottom, the other actor of the first get distance to. Now the second get distance to, you have to come over to closest pickup and drag out of there and plug it into the other actor. And now that's all set up. Now out of your return value, drag off less than, and then plug the bottom one into the bottom of this. So now you got both of them hooked up. And then out of your Boolean, plug it into your branch. And guys, without further ado, you have got the closest distance pickup that the AI can grab. So just to verify that this all works, we're just going to print the string of the closest pickup. Make sure you come out of the completed node. This is important. So this code all does all that work. And then when you're ready to use it, you come out of the completed node, and this is where you're going to make things happen. And basically all you got to do is get the closest pickup variable. So drag that in, get it, and this is the information you need to make something happen. Now I'm going to show you that it does work indeed. And I forgot to hit record earlier during this part, but I'll show you everything that's going on here. So if it looks different, don't freak out. Don't freak out. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to cover it. But you'll see we got item pickup number 2 right here. And you'll see that that is the closest one to the AI character. So now, for example, if we move the AI character over here, and he is definitely closest to this one right here, which is item pickup 3, hit play, item pickup 3. That is the one he's closest to. So I assure you that this system works, and I've seen no issues out of it. So it's ready to go. So for our next step, I have these set up. I just copied and pasted our item pickups in. And this will work if you spawn them in as well. I mean, if you need to make this a dynamic system where you spawn in actors and everything like that, you can totally do this. If you need a further tutorial on something like that, we can do that in a separate video. But so I have these set up to where when we move to the first one, he's going to pick this one up, and then the next one, he'll go to here, and then here, and then here. And I won't tell him which one to choose. He's going to find out which one's closest to him, right? And then our AI is going to move to that location. So let's go ahead and let's get that done. Let's go into our AI character. We're coming out of the completed node of the for each loop. We're going to get rid of this print string. We're coming out of the completed, and we're going to type AI move to. And right here, AI move to. That's what you want. And then take your closest pickup variable, plug it in the target actor. We're telling him, hey, go to the closest pickup, right? That's what we want him to do. And that's literally it. Now, the only trick here is you got to do one thing before this will work. You'll see I got this weird grid looking thing going on, right? When you hit P. Well, actually, you might not see it when you hit P at first, but anyways, you got to add a new item. Okay, so you need to go up, go to all classes. If you're in UE4, this will be on the left-hand side up here somewhere, and you'll just go down to all classes, and then search for nav mesh. And you're going to take the nav mesh bounds volume and place it in your level. And then when you click the nav mesh, you'll scroll down on the details, and there'll be an X, Y, and Z value right here. And this is how big it'll be. You need to make it cover all the available ground you want the AI to be able to walk on. So I just have it set to this local area right here. And then once that's done, it generates the navigation. And if you hit P, it shows you the green will be the navigation that is available. So if something's not green, the AI will not be able to walk to that position. But so you can see he's going to be able to walk to all these spots here. And something real quick, if you want these, you'll see that the navigation's not built underneath of them, so it's going to block his path, which may be exactly what you want. But if you wanted to change that, I'll show you how real quick. Go into your item pickup, go under our sphere collision, and up at the top of the details panel, search for nav, and right down here under advanced, under collision, under advanced, you're going to see can ever affect navigation. Just turn that off. And you might have to do that for everything in your actor with collision. So sphere also has it right here. Can ever affect navigation. So we turn those off for both of those. Compile it, save it, and there you go. You'll see that he will just walk straight through one of these if he needs to, which is technically what we kind of want, because we don't want him to be like, oh, I need to walk around that. No, not really. He can just walk through it, and he'll either pick it up or he won't. Okay, guys, I forgot one important thing. Make sure you get your self node back in the AI character. Make sure you take that self and plug it into pawn. I forgot to do this, and it did not work. So make sure you do that. I simply forgot. Okay, and so now we'll hit play, and watch this. Boom. He tries to get to the location, and when he gets there, he stops. Alright guys, so now let's make it to where when the AI interacts or overlaps our sphere of our item pickup, it's going to remove that item from the world and then add something to the player. AI character. So let's just open our item pickup, and in our event graph, what we can actually do is just click our trigger, left click our trigger, scroll all the way down to the bottom of your details panel, and you're going to see all these right here. You can actually just select on component begin overlap, hit the plus sign, and it'll make a function for you. And now, so basically when something overlaps our trigger, we're going to check something. So from other actor, type get class. Down here under utilities, get class. Drag off that, hit equals. We're going to do an equal. And then in the select class, we're going to type our AI character, or whatever you may have named your AI. This is what you'll do. And then hold down B, left click, get a branch. Plug this in. Drag off your execution pin, plug this in. So now we're saying if the AI character overlaps our trigger, what are we going to do about it? All right. So what I'm going to do for the sake of this video is I'm going to do a cast to AI character. So now we're going to cast to our AI character, come back over here to other actor, plug that into your object, and now we have access to our AI character. So here we can, for example, let's go to our AI character real quick. Let's make a variable, and I'm just going to call it, I don't know, items. And I'm going to change it to a float. And then also for the sake of this video, not for the sake of performance, but I'm going to make an event tick. And I'm going to delay by 1 second. Just to save a little bit of performance. And this is just to show you that this actually works. We're going to get our items. And we're going to right click. We're going to print a string. And plug items into it. And then out of the completed, we're going to plug that into this right there. So now the entire time that we're playing, basically you can see it keeps printing 0 because the current amount of items our AI character has is 0. But we're going to change that when he picks this up. So now under item pickup, we're going to drag off our as AI character and we're going to say that items, which is the variable we just made. And I'm just going to do a ++, which brings up increment float. And that's just going to add 1 to every time that this code runs. And then right after this, I'm just going to throw in a destroy actor. And leave it the way it is as self, as the target. And that's going to get rid of the item pickup. So let's try that. Hit play. The item's gone. And look at that. We now have 1 item. Check that out, huh? So now, just for the sake of this tutorial, finishing this out to show you that he is going to dynamically find the closest one to him. I'm just going to add a little bit of code to where he is now going, once he picks up something, he's going to look for another. So in order to do that, I'm just going to kind of add a little hook here. I'm going to right click and type custom event, and it's going to be add custom event. These are very useful, especially for keeping your code clean and just great, honestly. So I'm going to call this search. I'm just going to call it search because we're going to search for another closest item, right? Now out of search, I'm going to plug this into our for each loop. And that's literally all we got to do there. And then under item pickup, before we destroy item pickup, we're going to add in, off of our AI character, we're going to call search. And that's the custom function we just made. So as you can see what's about to happen. Now, we are adding 1 item to our inventory. We're going to start searching for another item. And then this actor is going to get destroyed. Alright guys, so I had a little bit of a problem, but I do believe I've solved the issue, so check it out. So, the problem was, basically, we were searching for our next closest object, or item I mean, but however, the old item was still colliding in our sphere collision. So we have to actually disable the collision of this object before we call the research. So, what that looks like is we're going to drag off of anywhere before the search part here. And the first thing we're going to want to do is actually get our sphere. And we're going to drag off of it and do set simulate physics. So you actually need to disable your physics on your object before you turn the collision off, or you're going to get some warnings and errors. So now that we've done that, we've set it to false right here. You can do true with on, false with off. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a set collision, set actor enable collision. And basically we're just going to leave it false, just like that. And then plug it back in. And that's all we got to do for there. Now, back over in our AR character, we had our search plugged into our for each. We're going to make some modifications here as well. We're going to drag all 3 of our float variables in and just set them. And we're going to leave them set at 0. Plug all your pins up just like this. And we're also going to go ahead and grab our closest pickup variable and set it. And we're just going to leave it alone as well, so it's just set to empty or null, more or less. So it's basically nothing. And then we're going to hold S and left click to get another sequence like earlier. Plug this in, and off of the first pin, we're going to plug it into our reset of our do once. This is very important so that this code resets itself when we restart the search. Now out of the bottom pin, we're going to come back to our for each loop, just like that. Compile, save, and let's check it out. So our character goes to the first, he finds the closest, he goes to it, and now we've basically recreated Pac-Man. And now he has no actor defined, so he's just going back to 000, which was our default location. Which is a handy little thing, actually. Okay, yeah, sorry. If you go back to the item pickup, this right here, this part of the code right here, that was not what I intended. We need to get our item variable that we made. Like I said, you don't need this specifically, but I was just using this to show you that it works. And we're going to move this here. So we're actually going to take our current items, plug it into our increment thing here, and then take that new variable and set it to our item variable here. And now plug everything back up, and you'll see, I'll show you as well, as each item he finds, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the numbers up at the top left, they transition. So you could say he picked up 4 crates of ammunition or 4 points of health. And that's pretty much it, guys. So hopefully you can take some of this knowledge and transform it into your own and just make a cool game out of it. So I wish you all luck. Thanks for watching.